Hi, my name is Macdara Butler. Thanks for listening today. Today I'm going to talk about delivering real-time digital experiences with the Esso Pay Mobile App. I'm a director of product management at Fiserv. This talk is about some of the challenges I've experienced while working with the Esso Pay Mobile App in Europe. For the past 2 years, I've been working with Exxon Mobil in rolling out this app across several countries in Western Europe. The app allows users to pay for fuel using their mobile phone, using an Esso branded app. You can see more on the YouTube link. The traditional consumer journey around purchasing fuel has been very fragmented, and I'm going to touch on that in my talk and explain how Esso envisaged the mobile app would improve that customer journey and consumer experience with fuel purchasing. So some of the topics I want to talk about would be how we create our customer journeys and our UX designs, how some of the technical considerations that impact our product development. Also, we'll look at how field testing is a key component of rolling out a product such as this, and how some of the data analysis tools we have to help us track metrics and user feedback and see what's going on the ground when we go live with, say, new app releases. And I might just briefly touch then on what the future might hold for our product and also the industry and where things are going. And there's some interesting anecdotes about running products like this, so hopefully you find it useful. So my background, I'm just going to give a quick introduction to myself. I've been working here for 2 years at Fiserv. My background is in UX, working with designers and developers, cross-functional teams to build web and mobile apps since 2006. I was head of digital experience at OpenJoe previously, and also worked for a number of years at Travelport Digital when it was mobile travel technologies. It was a startup. Prior to that, I had my own startup, which was called Tricycle Interactive, which I co-founded and worked there for 6 years. And I also have a master's in interactive media and in product management. So just before I get started, this is the product that I currently work with at Fiserv. The name of the product is Universal Commerce, and the call out here is omnichannel commerce. There's a link provided below if you'd like to find out more about that product. But obviously through this talk, you'll see the kinds of use cases and scenarios that this product supports and the value it can deliver to customers. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction to set the scene. So the traditional customer experience for purchasing fuel, as you probably know yourselves, if you've got a car that runs off fossil fuels, obviously we all want to move to electric vehicles as soon as possible. But you drive your car, you see the indicator getting low, and you just look for the nearest petrol station you can find, and pull in, fuel your car, and pay, and get a little paper receipt like this. That's typically how most of us purchase fuel in Europe at the moment. It's very commoditized, and it's not the most engaging experience or memorable experience. You probably wouldn't even know if somebody asked you which station you fueled at or which brand it was. It's not something you really think about. So when we were working with Exxon Mobil, which is one of our key clients in Fiserv, they had done a lot of analysis, and you can see I just provided a snippet here from a customer journey mapping exercise across what it's like for users, and there are friction points, and they decided that they needed to do something about this. So I'm just going to touch on some of the key findings before we get into the mobile app itself. So some of the main issues that are problematic with the current fueling experience in the market for the customer are, it's not easy to find, say, a preferred service station that has the amenities that you want. It's hit and miss. It's quite fragmented because, between purchasing fuel at different stations from different brands, you just end up with paper receipts that you throw in the bin. So you don't really ever know where you've been, and you don't have any record of it or any way of, analysis you can do yourself just to see what your spend patterns are like or anything like that, which people I think are more, conscious of nowadays as more and more experiences become digitized. Also, the customer, is not recognized. So the brand doesn't really feel to care about you when you're purchasing fuel from them over and over. You could be anybody, and it doesn't seem to matter where you go. So that's not great from the customer point of view. And then, of course, waiting to pay can be an issue, in busy cities around Europe with, pressure on the service station. There can be queues and so on. Hygiene becomes an issue with COVID. So it can be a problem for in certain locations where the fueling experience can be quite a slow process to get the payment done. And a lot of, not that many pumps have payment enabled for chip and pin at the actual pump in some of these markets. It varies across Europe. So for the brand, then of course there's some major issues from the marketing perspective, that there's no engagement with the customer. The brand doesn't know who their customers are, and there's no differentiation against other fuel brands out in the market or other products. Also, there's no way to measure the effectiveness of marketing because you don't really know how effective your marketing campaigns were, and you've no direct real marketing with no ability to close the loop on a marketing campaign or an offer. So they're kind of some of the major issues that we're facing the Exxon Mobil marketing group. So that's where this came from. So the next slide is the actual Esso Pay app just from the App Store. So the concept was to bring in a mobile app that solves for some of these issues, that and enhances the consumer experience when purchasing fuel and fueling your car. So it's a simple enough concept, I guess, to understand, and it's one we can all identify with. Most of us drive cars that take either diesel or petrol fuel or whatever, and we've all paid for fuel, so it's something you can probably easily relate to. So I just have a short video here, hopefully will play okay, and show you just a screen. This is a screen recording of the Esso app, just to bring it to life a little bit. And so this is the dashboard. You have a start fueling button in the center, and you've got a connected Nectar loyalty account for earning and redeeming points. So you select your pump, and in this case, you can scan the QR code to the camera will open, and the user actually scans physically at the pump, which is a nice integration if geolocation doesn't work. And Apple Pay is integrated, so it's very easy if you have an iPhone, for example, just to automatically use that. And the next step then is just to authorize the payment. So there's kind of a pre-authorization happens for security purposes, and then you start fueling your car. It's just shorten the video, and you get your completed transaction. And then you'll see at the end, you end up with the paper receipt that was the only artifact you probably would have ended up with in a current experience. So it's a much more, you've got your transaction history, you've earned your loyalty points, much more engaging experience than traditionally. So that's the Esso Pay Mobile App. So hopefully all clear so far, just setting the scene really. And I just want to talk then about how we developed that and some of the challenges we faced in rolling out this app in different markets. So this is a user journey documentation that we created for the fueling flow for the app. So there's lots of different points at which decision points where the different flows can be accessed depending on what the user's action is and what the reaction of the system is to the user. So just a simple artifact, but we do have a process around that. It's not the basis for my talk today, but as you can imagine, we followed the general methodologies you would in creating mocks and prototypes and getting user feedback, etc. Working with cross-functional teams and experts to get the requirements and the designs right, so that we can build new features and roll them out. That's just a simple point. That's all very well, but as Mike Tyson once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So I guess the analogy there is, it's nice having good user journey designs, etc. But with a real world product like this, it's not like when you're selling e-commerce products that get delivered 2-3 days later, or digital products. The problem is the person is there with the car and they're trying to fuel the car. They may already have fueled the car, and if something goes wrong with the experience, you've got a real-time situation to deal with. There's no time to recover that you might have when you're, say, purchasing a ticket for a concert or a flight, or if you're purchasing clothes or other goods to be delivered. There's time between the purchase and the actual fulfillment when you can recover from any issues that might happen, behind the scenes. But in this case, there's no opportunity. The person is physically at the station. They may already have put the fuel in their car, and lots of different things can happen. So some of the kinds of things that can happen on the scale are, some interesting anecdotes I'll just share with you verbally today. But for example, we found, I'll move to the next slide, but how we find out these issues is through customer care, customer feedback, feeding back in, and through data analysis, looking at the systems, reporting, etc. But some of the things we get through are, for example, there was a Wi-Fi at a petrol station, and all the people who would arrive at the station would connect to the Wi-Fi. There was a well-established Wi-Fi provider across the UK, but they didn't really realize that their phone was proactively connecting to the Wi-Fi. So the second they kind of arrived at the station, they were on the Wi-Fi, but unfortunately at one of the stations, this Wi-Fi had stopped working. So there was no connectivity. So it's one of these really difficult things to find out, like what went wrong. So when they're trying to fuel the car, then everything kind of stops working because there's no internet connection. But they're not aware of the fact they have no internet connection. It doesn't look like they don't have one. So it's working with our customer care, the customer care team in Exxon Mobile, and our own customer support team in Fiserv. We get into the detail of these kinds of issues, and that's one example. There are more examples. For example, when it can happen, when somebody fuels the car, then payment can fail in very unusual circumstances. Then you may have issues with, somebody might drive off without actually paying, or thinking they paid or not paid. So detecting those kinds of scenarios is very important, because it is a digital experience now, and there's no actual interaction with the staff at the site. So there's lots of different things that can happen in the physical real-time fulfillment. Obviously, Fiserv has lots of different customers around the world, and we do a lot of order ahead with QSR or casual dining, such as Burger King, etc. Dunkin' Donuts, Chick-fil-A, all those big brands. We do order ahead solutions with them, but it's the same type situation. There's food that has to be prepared within a few minutes of the person arriving. Everything has to happen in real time without a glitch. So that's kind of hopefully set the scene for kind of challenges that we faced. And you can imagine, when you scale out something across multiple markets, there can be a number of different types of very nuanced issues that can come back through customer care and through our reporting systems. So one of the key aspects of this, how we solved for this, was through field testing. So we have a quality cycle that you'd probably be familiar with if you're in a tech company, of doing QA. We have UAT we do internally, then we have business UAT with the customer, then we go to production and we do field testing. So over the last 12 months, we've really developed quite a sophisticated field testing capability. across multiple markets in Europe now. The structure around that, lots of processes, methodologies. But what the field testing does is it means we go out with our new app or new features or new release, we'll say, and we test that for real with real people's accounts, whether it's Apple Pay or a bank or a credit card, debit card, PayPal, with multiple payment methods they can use, different with their own loyalty account, etc. And they use the app with their car. They go to different stations, and it's probably something you're familiar with, but it's becoming well documented now online. I see lots of articles coming up about this. So we do extensive field testing to ensure everything is good, and regression test all the features to make sure that when we do release, that the quality is really good for the customer and that we don't introduce any issues. Because as I said before, when you do introduce an issue in a real-time situation, it's a much bigger problem than it would be in traditional digital commerce. So then we have a product certification step, and before we go live, so we recap all the testing and all the quality checks we've done, and we have a decision to launch the app. So without getting into too much detail around the field testing, that's just a high level overview of our process. I have some photos just to bring it to life of one of the field testers we have in Germany. So you can see, going to the car, fueling, etc. You can imagine it's quite an interesting job. And what we've decided to do now is we've appointed a full-time manager now to run the field testing function in our organization in Europe. So we've actually formalized everything, and it's a new function. It was a new concept to all of us in product and QA and other departments. And we've got, professionalized our field testers across Europe and trained them. And, we have a specific approach to, ramping them up with each new release, telling them how the features work, and testing different scenarios and looking for issues and things that might go wrong. So it's just something I thought might be of interest to people in the UX/DX community. So that's just a high level. Some of the data analysis tools then we have would be things like Firebase. We have our own reporting system, and we create dashboards. These are just mocked figures on the right, but we do track on a kind of weekly, and even we have lots of alerts, of course, set up to track transaction levels, etc. So trying to proactively find where there might be issues. We have funnels set up in Firebase, see if there's any drop off, different customer journeys. There could be 5 or 6 core journeys in the app, depending whether you're looking for a petrol station, which is a site finder feature, or if you're actually fueling or paying or registering an account. Different journeys and different funnels apply. So obviously nowadays, you're probably all aware data privacy is a major issue. So we have to be very much, especially with markets like Germany, we have to be very much ahead of the regulation and conscious of what data we capture and why we capture it and where it's kept. So that's just something to maybe reflect on as well. But it's using data analysis in the right way with anonymized data, and adhering to GDPR and the different rulings that have happened in recent years. So it's probably worth mentioning that. So I suppose that's kind of the most of the points I wanted to land on today, was just to share our experience and our story, and just a couple of conclusions then, that field testing is now core to how we deliver and manage this product. We've even set up a function around field testing and professionalized our field testers. And then, as you can imagine, executing a field testing program has its own challenges. So maybe our new head of field testing is just joining next week. So maybe in a few months' time, she'll come back and give you a bit more detailed talk on those challenges around field testing. That's all I have for today. So hopefully that was useful. And looking forward to speaking with some of you soon. Thank you.